Hi, welcome to the Kiwi Ads and Mods tutorial on all things Mortons. Traditionally, Kiwi has always had our own interpretation of the terms Morton's extension and reverse Morton's, mostly just through how we perceived it and how we best found it interacted with our patients. Um, but over the years, as we've grown and brought on new clients and new partners, uh, there's been a bit of a learning curve. And so, in a concerted effort to make the process more transparent, we've disambiguated the terms into several standalone selections to hopefully make your life a little easier and rely less on specialized notes on every other orthotic order. So going forward, the order form will now carry several different options for forefoot mods as follows. First ray cutout. This is a term widely used across the podorthic industry and orthotic industry. And essentially, what it describes is for a 3/4 length shell, we shave off just the distal medial edge of the shell where it may interact with the first metatarsal shaft. And by cutting this out, theoretically, it allows the first metatarsal to plantar flex a little earlier in the cycle to help get more mechanical leverage or just to help relieve pressure. Especially in a patient where you think the sesamoids or the actual metatarsal head may be more sensitive, this is an easy way to help just grind back that medial corner of the shell to help relieve some of that pressure. This is what we'd call a subtractive modification. It involves removing something from the order. In the same vein, we have something called a first met head cutout. Again, this is subtractive, so it requires there to be a material selected within the forefoot or in the shell or the forefoot extrinsic EVA stabilizer. One of those three things has to be underneath the ball of the foot, underneath the metatarsal heads, for us to be able to make this modification. And it really just involves us cutting out a section underneath the first metatarsal head. So in this example, I would have filled out for the forefoot and the toe zone on the backing section, 3 mm EVA, and then I select the first met head cutout, and we chop out that section. Pretty straightforward. So those are the two subtractive modifications. To get into the what I'd call the additive modifications, we have a 2 to 5 extension, which traditionally you may have heard of as a reverse Morton's extension. And it pretty much does what it says on the tin. It is an extension of whatever material you choose, added on top of the shell, extended underneath the metatarsal heads, second to 5. In this example, it's a 3 mm cork material. You don't have to add this in the backing section. There will be a drop-down menu on the order form next to this selection that you can choose this material for. In the same vein, we have a traditional Morton's extension. So with this, we have the same material I just showed you, a 3 mm cork, but instead of a 2 to 5 extension, we have a Morton's extension, which just means it's attached underneath the first metatarsal head. And for both of these options, 2 to 5 or Morton's extension, they can be to sulcus, as they are in the examples here, or all the way to toes. Next one we have is a kinetic wedge. Now, essentially what a kinetic wedge is in theory is a piece of material added just underneath either the IP joint of the hallux or the full length of the hallux to help dorsiflex that first MTP joint to help prime that windlass or that toe off movement. What you see here is essentially chosen in a drop-down menu beside the kinetic wedge selection, a 3 mm EVA material. And you can choose whatever you'd like from that area. And this one in the example here, it's going to sulcus. You also have the option of going to full length, which would give you something very similar to the other example I showed you. In the sulcus version, though, you'll see there's just a little extension of material that goes underneath that proximal IP joint in the hallux to help lift that up, essentially like a hallux toe crest, if you want to think of it that way. Okay. The one sample I don't have with me today is the last one, the first metatarsal shell extension, which at its root is the exact same as the Morton's extension in terms of what it would look like, except we would extend it in whatever material the shell is made of. In this example with polypropylene, we'd do a vacuum molded pressed polypropylene with that extension going either to the sulcus or the full length. And that can be quite a good option for someone dealing with osteoarthritis in that joint that has reached a more severe point and needs a strict limitation. So in that way, functions similar to a carbon gate plate within the shoe. So that is an option in any of our shells. In something like a soft shell, EVA, or rigid plastizote, that shell Morton's extension isn't going to have the same rigid function as it would in polypro or graphite, but it'll function more like the Morton's extension you see here. That different selection just helps us delineate what if you want a material added or if you want it built within the shell itself. Now, I know that was a little bit confusing, but hopefully that illuminates some of the changes we made and some of the selections you'll see going forward on the order form between all those different types of additions and modifications. As always, feel free to reach out. You have any questions, you want to chat. Email is best, of course, tech@koslab.ca, but reach out and we'll be happy to chat with you any way you'd like. Cheers.